Good morning, folks. Welcome to our podcast today. Um, this morning's edition of the Auram podcast, and we are so glad that you've tuned in to join with us today. I'm your host. My name is Anthony Kuria, and with me is my co-host Zipporah Kuria, and our guest today is Martha Thuku. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you, Anthony.
Welcome, Martha. Yeah, I think
It's Honey. Good morning,
yes.
all of you. Thank you, Anthony, for welcoming us this morning.
Thank you. We are so excited with today's podcast. As you know, Aurum Consultants podcast, this is a place where you learn matters regarding HR and risk advisory. And today, we want to continue with a theme that we began last week. We had a theme that we began for the year, which was starting the year right. As you know, most businesses around this time of the year are planning and putting strategies in place to decide how their businesses will work for the next 12 months. And today we want to focus on the role of human resources in business strategy. Martha, welcome. Kidogo kulikuwa na hitilafu.
Yeah, there was sorry for the internet issues, but now I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha. That's when we are using technology, sometimes we have hiccups here and there. Now, as I said, today we are discussing the role of HR in business strategy. And Martha, today I want to begin with you. Before we discuss about HR, could you kindly probably give us, a description of what business strategy is all about?
Thank you, Tony, and Happy New Year, our viewers. I know the year has gone, but we've not met this year. So
sure.
Every person I have not met, I'm still wishing them Happy New Year. Mm. And so we are discussing about business and strategy. This is a new year. So for every business, for a business strategy is actions or decisions taken by a business enterprise to reach its long-term objectives. Mm-hmm. Remember, when a business is formulating, they have already done a SWOT analysis. Mm-hmm. They have already checked on their strengths. They have checked their weaknesses, and they know that they will succeed. So they set their objectives, and they have competition in the market. So they have to come up with kind of a blueprint of what will happen for them to achieve those objectives, one, and B, to remain competitive or even exceed their competitors. Mm-hmm. So a business strategy defines the business needs, and it's kind of a guide manual on various decision-making processes that will happen during that period, which will help in resource allocations, and those resource allocations will include HR. Thank you, Tony.
Wow, Martha, you've done it well. You've given us a definition that if we have business students online or listening to us today, they don't need to go to their professor to get a definition. You've done it very well from business, from an actual in the field kind of analysis. Now, Zippy.
Yes.
Martha has described about business strategy. How does HR, let me put it this way, does HR have any role to play in business strategy, or is this reserved for the business executives?
I think that's a very good question, Anthony. And sometimes we forget that HR is very critical to any business. And the answer to that question is yes. HR has a very critical role in playing, not only in formulation of the strategy, but also in the implementation of that strategy. We have to remember that HR is the glue that holds the organization together. HR is a department or is a person who is in touch with literally everyone in the organization, from someone who is at the bottom level of the organization to the top management. So it's very important for us to realize HR as a very important role. And even for the HR professionals and HR managers, it's important for us to want to be involved in formulation of the strategy so that it becomes easier for us to actually implement that strategy. And I would say HR as a tools, it has the competencies, it has all that is required to actually implement a business strategy. So the answer to that question, yes, HR is very critical.
And maybe I can add to CP. I can say that, yes, as I said earlier, so in the business strategy, which is a guide to various decision-making processes that will happen in the organization, and those processes include HR solutions. Yes. So because it is from that strategy that a HR strategy is derived. So in the strategy itself, there must be a key result area for HR. So if the decision makers who are sitting in a round table making a strategy, if they don't include HR in that table, how is HR going to be able to drive that process for themselves? Remember, it is the HR that knows if there's a recruitment that is supposed to happen in that strategy, because in the table they are doing kind of a work plan that is going to dictate the processes that will happen. So when they are work planning, there are some HR solutions that will be needed in that work plan. So if the HR is not in that table, who is going to run with whatever the HR needs? Remember, they are the ones who keep stock of even the skills they have in the organization. So meaning that a HR is able to say, no, if there is a new position, we already have a skill, we can promote someone from within. The managers may not know, but you'll find most organizations, they don't want to put HR in that strategic table. And so the repercussions are heavy. Thank you so much.
Wow, Martha, you've brought in a very important stuff, a very important aspect. I don't know, Zippy, you wanted to contribute something before I continue with the stories?
Yes, I actually wanted to add something to what this mother has said. And I think sometimes, again, and especially for SMEs and smaller businesses where probably you find they don't have an HR person in-house, sometimes you find they probably don't know how to include HR in their strategy formulation or their strategy implementation. And I think it's important for us to know, even with smaller businesses, it's important for us to have the strategy in place. It's important for us to plan and know where we are going as a business. And in the event that, you don't have an in-house, HR who can help you in planning your strategy, implementing the same. These are some of the things actually we help some of our clients do. So I would say it's important even for smaller businesses to come up with their own strategies and also have a way of implementing the same.
Wow. Ladies, you are really going to the meat and bones of this issue concerning business strategy. For our viewers who are listening to us, who are in business, who are having their own companies that they are running, or you are a business manager, been employed to run this school or this hospital or this manufacturing entity. And there's something Martha put there that I want to bring in, that you're planning the strategy, you're deciding where will we allocate resources, ABCD, and then you realize, okay, here we want to pivot, or we want to go into this direction, and we therefore need somebody with this kind of skills. And therefore, when you plug in the HR, the person in charge of HR, you can be able to find out who amongst our staff can we be able to promote internally. And therefore, being able to do that, not only do you plug in an issue that you would want to have it run, continue running smoothly, instead of bringing somebody from outside who might have to learn the company's culture afresh. But when you promote from internal, you do not need to get the person running at speed. 2, you not only also improve morale within the team, within the group that you're having. And then 3, you are able to create now opportunities lower in, the person who left where he was where he or she was working, you create another opportunity for employment. So, Martha, I like the way you've brought it. Issues to do with internal promotions, which brings issues of morale and team spirit, plus also reducing the cost of having to train somebody from scratch. Now, the third issue that I have in mind, now that we've discussed what business strategy is and the role of HR in crafting of the business strategy. Now, what are some of the roles of HR? Sorry, why is it important for HR strategy to be aligned with business strategy? Martha, probably I can ask you from that aspect.
Yes. Thank you so much once more. My take is that it is important for businesses to understand that the HR role has evolved from admin processes to business partnerships, or something maybe I can call strategic enabler. And as long as organizations are able to bring themselves to that fact that a HR role is a strategic enabler. So that when they're preparing business plans, then they bring in the HR person. And also in that strategic strategy, there's also a key result area that will be a deliverable for HR. Yes. So because of that, you see the role of HR, the importance of HR in that strategy is to focus on the HR solutions that will drive that business that year. So, like even when we are in offices, and for me, I sit with the executives, even when we are discussing the strategy. From there, I'm able to focus or to take up, this is the business strategy. I just take it up and run with it. There are some organizations who find that the HR is not in that forum. So one of the people, maybe the operations director in that forum, is the one who is given the task to go and advise the HR what has been agreed. Remember, he will not take it with the passion that the HR will take it. You'll find most of the times operation directors are mostly financial oriented. So they will not pick it with the same strength that the HR is supposed to take it. Sometimes they even forget what has been done. So have been discussed what HR need to do. So it is very important for that the HR strategy that is in business is also picked by the HR person themselves, because then they are able to run with it and then come up with the HR solutions that will drive that business. We have said they are business partners, they are strategic enablers. So they also do the inventory for the staff, the skills they have. If the business involves change management and the strategy is changing, then it's the one who will come up with the change, because they're the ones in touch with the staff. Let's look at the time of COVID. Every organization last year had that strategy of how they will move within the course of the year. Let's talk about Kenya. Then come in March and things changed. And then now we can't run the strategy the way we had, because the strategy has to change. Imagine some of you see the goal is the same. The business objective doesn't change. But now the strategy has to change for people to remain competitive and in the market and even afloat, because now the economy had changed. So some of the decisions that were made were critical decisions affecting HR, including cutting down on salaries, sending people home. Some people lost their jobs. Imagine when that decision is being made and HR is not in that table. So how is that HR going to run with that strategy? So that is where it is important, and the role of HR in business strategy is very important, because they are the ones in touch on the ground. They are the ones who have that personal touch with the people who are the implementers of that strategy. And maybe I can give Zippy to add for me.
Yes.
If I can just make a brief comment on what Mother has said. I made a comment earlier and I said HR is the glue that holds the organization together. Now, there's no strategy that can be implemented without people. And HR is the one basically in charge of the people matters in terms of talent, in terms of training, in terms of knowing this is where the gaps are. And how do we plug in to ensure these gaps are taken care of so that we can be able to to achieve what the organization wants to achieve. So as an HR, I need to pick the organization's strategy and come up with the HR strategy that aligns with that business strategy. What are the key factors I need to put in place? What do I need to do from an HR perspective to ensure we are driving the people towards achieving that strategy? So it's very important for us to actually have that understanding.
Wow. Ladies, today you are dropping serious gems. Yeah, I'm hearing some serious gems. I'm sure our listeners are also enjoying this. Martha has just said that HR is a strategic enabler for the company. Zippy, you've just said something very deep, that HR is the glue that binds the company together. Those are gems that I'm just writing them down as you ladies release them. I like what Jackie Mora has said in the comment section. She says, I agree with Martha. The operations, I believe she was talking about the operations director, are normally finance oriented. And since HR is not their number one priority, they will not give it the voice it deserves. What Jackie is saying there is actually true. This week, Zippy and I went out to see a prospective client, and we were looking how to work together with them in terms of enabling them, their people strategy to be able to flow. And when we asked them, okay, who handles HR affairs? Martha, what you've just said is very true. They called a lady, they said she's is it the administrative or operations somebody? And when the lady came into the office, she was talking from an accounting perspective. It is about figures, it's about we don't have enough of this, we don't have enough of that. Because it's at school, talking about issues to do with food. Our food budget is very high, this is very high. So I actually laughed and told the lady, I can see you're just thinking about figures and numbers. About figures and numbers. How many cooks do we have? How many teachers do we have? How much food is being consumed? Blah blah blah. And I said, this is why you need our consultants, because we are able to plug in to help the company align a HR strategy within the business plan, that you're able now to think that you're not having robots. You don't have robots for people. You're having live human beings, right from the director himself, right from the owner. Sometimes we forget that even the owner, the founder, the CEO is also HR. I mean, they have to sign a contract. They have got to be paid. They will go for sick leave. If they are ladies, they go. If they need to go for maternity. I mean, everybody, including the founder and the starters of the business, are also part of HR. So that's why we are saying HR strategy is very critical in being aligned with the business strategy. Now, let me bring in another question, which I'm thinking would also be very pertinent to this discussion. What are the key areas that HR leaders can align functional areas with business strategy? Zippy, probably you can pick this one up.
Thank you, Anthony. I think I just go straight to the point and assure and say one of the roles will be to ensure alignment around the organization vision and values as you formulate your strategy as an organization. And I would say business leaders sometimes focus too much on strategic planning. The day-to-day operations that they lose the sight of the core values or the core plan of the business. So it's important for us, to align our vision, our values to that strategy as a business. So I would say as an HR, you have a critical role to play to help the business leaders and to make sure they are aligning whatever strategy they're coming up with to the values and to the vision of the business. Sometimes I think we can be too ambitious in what we want to achieve, and we forget what are the values that drive us. What is the vision of the business? So it's important also for HR to come in and try and help the business leaders, to focus and to be a little bit, going towards some direction, considering the values and the values and the objectives of the business. The other thing I would say that would be a role for an HR would be aligning the business to the culture of the organization. I think most organizations have a culture in place, or they have a culture they are trying to build. So as we are coming up with our business strategy, it's important to look at, ourselves from the inside. What is the culture of this business? And as we are formulating this strategy, will our culture help us in attaining the strategy that we are coming up with? As we are coming up with all these things we want to do, all these strategies we are trying to put in place to achieve, is our culture going to help us achieve that? Or is our culture going to also be something that will make us, drop the balls and not be able to achieve the goals? Yeah, so it's important. And I know we talk a lot about culture. Sometimes we have good culture, sometimes we have bad culture, but it's important as HR to go and look at what is the culture of this organization vis-a-vis the strategy we are putting in place. And how is culture going to play a role in helping us achieve those roles? So I would allow Mother to also put a word into this as well.
Yes, and thanks so much, Zippy, for that. That is very powerful. I would also like to add one or two, and I would say that when that business strategy is being done, it's very important for HR to be there, because the other function is compensation and benefits. And I'm thinking, in every organization, there is, I'm assuming, there's a HR policy.
Yes.
And the HR policy is the minimum of how we do things here.
Yes.
So if the HR is not included there when the business strategy is being done, remember, there are budgets also to be discussed in that forum. And
Yes.
HR is a driver of compensation. So you'll find in most organizations, they have a grading system, that there's these jobs are in this job grade. These jobs are in this job grade. And they have maybe a salary range for that job grade. So that information is only with the HR. Meaning, when budgeting, when work plans have been discussed from the strategy, and now it's time for budgeting, the HR needs to give advice on the budget of this particular role. Because then if they under budget and then they advertise for that role, they won't get that person in the market because they can't afford them. So compensation is another function area for HR. The other one is also like recruitment. Let me say every HR area, and especially like recruitment. So the work plans have been done and a position needs to be hired for. The HR needs to come up with a strategy, of how that position will be recruited and what kind of skills that will be needed for that position. What does this mean? If they are not there to give that advice, there will be no plan on recruitment. And so they're just told, recruit this person. They don't even know what kind of a person they need to recruit. What are their skills, What are their competencies? What kind of a person are we looking for? So we just hire anyone, and then the business is not happening, and we are wondering why. And it's because we have hired the wrong person, because HR really was not included in the meat of the discussions before this decision was made. So they were just told, hire this person, and they are not sure what kind of a person they are looking for. So that's why it's so important, because then HR is able to focus when they are there. They're able to focus on every HR solution that will be needed to drive that strategy. Thank you so much.
Wow.
Anthony, you can allow me to actually add something else before you make your remark. I think the other thing that we need to know as HR, as our role, is to also to keep employees engaged on the strategy implementation. Because if we don't keep our employees engaged, then again becomes a bit of a challenge implementing that strategy. And as an HR, you are at a place where you are able to get feedback from employees, you're able to get suggestions from employees, and you're able to bring that together and help in formulating the plan that needs to be put in place. So I think we also need to be very aware that we need to keep our staff, our employees engaged. Sometimes we are having strategies in terms of bringing in change, and there's change management, and we are failing to bring in employees on board. And what happens in such situations, again, we start realizing we are having resistance. And it's not necessarily that change is bad, but engaging those employees, bringing them on the table, helps in implementing whatever it is that we want to do as a business.
Yes, ZP, and you have brought in a very important aspect, especially that part of employee buying in the strategy. I'm telling you, Tony, not even the business owner will be able to make the staff buy in. So the HR is an influencer, and easily they easily are able to get the staff to buy into the objectives of the organization. So it is really advisable for HR to be one of the lead people in that strategy formulation. Thank you.
Wow, ladies, today there's a famous radio and TV broadcaster who says it's smoking in here, and today indeed it is smoking. I mean, I'm learning stuff. I'm writing notes as you ladies speak. I can see even in the comment section, Betty Kimani and Jackie Mora, I can see they're saying, I'm learning. Betty's saying, I'm learning and learning more, Martha. She's really appreciating what you're saying. The issue of HR being the driver of compensation. That's something new. I mean, not many people know that when you're thinking about compensation, most people go to finance. Finance are the people who look at budgets. They look at what is coming in, what is going out. They look at profit and loss. For them, it's bottom line. But then if we are going to think about HR, and really, Martha, when you think about it, this is something that it doesn't occur to most business people, that if you have a HR function and you've decided we will be compensating people, will be compensating in this manner, depending on the skills and functions and qualifications, then it only makes sense to go back to HR. If, say, you want to hire a marketer, you want to hire a business development manager, or you want to hire somebody skilled, depending on the industry. And before you go looking for the people in finance, why not ask the people in HR? You want to hire somebody in business development, ideally in the market, what is the compensation rate? Then if you don't have that in-house, then the HR person will be able to get that information from out there, and therefore the business is able to align itself with that. Yeah. Now, as we wind down, ladies, what is the final word that you could give? I'm thinking we need to do this thing once more. We were just getting revved up, and our time is almost up. Yeah, engine ndio ilikuwa inashika moto mazee, and then now again we've got to land this plane. But briefly, in a few words, let me start with Zippy. What would you say about HR's input into business strategy?
What I would say is HR is a very critical function in implementing any business strategy. So as business executives, as business owners, let's not leave out HR when we are formulating our strategy, because they are the ones who are going to implement that strategy. If we leave them out, then we expect them to actually implement the strategy. Then it becomes a little bit of a challenge, because again, you might have formulated your strategy and left out very critical details of what needs to be done because the HR aspect of it was missing. So let's engage HR people when we are formulating the strategy so that it becomes a smooth way of implementing the same. In the event you don't have an HR person in-house, that's why we are here as HR consultants, and we will be able to help you formulate, and not just formulating the right strategies, but also implementing the same.
Brilliant. Martha, what are your closing remarks?
Thank you so much, Tony. I commend exactly what Zippy has said, and I would like to add that business owners should recognize that HR is no longer an administrative function. Those things concerning filing, what, those things are not for a HR person. Those things are the ones that are given to casuals and interns.
Yes.
So if you reduce your HR person to that category, then you are not serious in business and you will not make it in the market. The most important thing is to have that strategy and make sure that as the executives are seated in that business table discussing the strategy, the HR person is in that table. Because the quality she brings in, none of you will see, because most business people just think money, they think business. The HR person has another angle and can bring your mind back when they see you as strangers. In another way, the HR is also able now to run with some of the discussions that have been reached in that strategy. They have a key HR strategic area, and they need to be accountable for it. They should be able to, when there is evaluations, they are evaluating themselves from that key HR area that is in the strategy. So this is the strategy. This is what HR is meeting. And every time, even when there's performance appraisal, the person who is the manager of the HR person should be able to appraise that person from the key HR resort area in the strategy. So it's not just, recruitment, we needed 10. No, it is the business strategy and how the HR has been able to inculcate the HR strategies within the business strategy, and what benefit has it brought because of the decisions the HR has made. That's what I would say. Thank you so much.
Wow. Thank you, Martha. Thank you, Zippy. I mean, today we were just revving up. I can see even comments are coming thick and fast. Philistas Obunga, thank you for your comments concerning, advising Betty about, what compensation involves. And really, I like the way you've put it, issues to do with benefits, reward management, blah, blah, blah. Thank you, Betty. Ndongo Wawangombe, I can see you have asked a question there. This, and I appreciate what you've asked, Warandongo. We will continue with this discussion next week, where we will continue with issues to do with how does HR really plug in helping not just craft, but even implement. Martha, there's something you said at the beginning of the podcast, that in 2020, as usual, business executives planned for the year. Everything was ready, scenarios were cast, blah, 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 budgets were prepared. And then within 2-3 months, COVID hit. Our world changed. Business targets still had to be met, but now everything had to be reconfigured in a very radical way. And therefore, these are the things now I think we'll need you to come here next week. We discuss more on the role of HR in business strategy, like the questions that Alex has asked. I mean, Mr. Ndongo Awangombe, I don't know why I'm calling him. Mr. Ndongo Awangombe has asked about what strategies does HR employ with employers to have their buy-in, I believe that's what he was saying, and create stakeholder engagement into the overall company business strategy. That's a very good question, Mr. Ndongo. And we will handle it next week together with any others. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask, if you're listening to our podcast as we come to the end, please send them to us, through consult@armconsultants.co.ke. Our Facebook page is also available. You can connect with us in Facebook, on YouTube, on LinkedIn. Send the questions. Next week, we'll continue with the same topic to be able to be of benefit and of use to our listeners and our viewers. So we've come to the end of our podcast. Thank you very much for logging in. My name is Anthony Kuria. Thank you, Zippy Kuria, and Martha for being with us today. So we'll be here next time, next weekend, same time, same place. Take care and God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.